Welcome everyone. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Welcome Dr. MBB Prasada. Welcome Dr. Om Pathak. Thanks for joining us. I am Ravi Gupta. I am CEO and founder of Elets Technomedia Private Limited. And we are organizing this virtual school tech summit. And this is the second edition of this school tech summit we are organizing after the corona situation has emerged. And as you are aware that Elets has been a pioneer in the field of digital education. We have been creating platforms online, offline, and also in the print medium through our magazine called Digital Learning, which is a 15-year-old magazine. This is India's first and only magazine focusing on ICT innovations in the classrooms. When we say classrooms, we are talking about preschool, we are talking about school, and also in the higher education. And today's event becomes much more relevant in the terms of the context of the national education policy, which has been announced just yesterday by the government. And there are landmark announcements in that policy. So we will request our speakers to talk about their views and opinions on the national education policy also. And this is a whole day summit. We are going to have a lot of participants who are joining us right now on Zoom, and also virtually watching us live on Facebook and YouTube channel of Elets Technomedia. So welcome all the viewers who are watching us on all the social platforms, and I welcome our eminent inaugural speakers, Dr. MBB Prasada Rao. He is Dr. Prasad Rao is the Director of Central Board of Secondary Education, CBSE, and I welcome him, Dr. Prasad, and he has been our speaker in several of our physical events we have organized all over the country, and he has been a great motivator and a speaker at our conference. And thanks for joining us virtually, Prasad Raoji. And we have with us Om Pathak, who is the founder and chairman of DPSG Society and Selaqui International School, Dehradun. Namaskar, Om Pathak ji. Thanks for joining us. And before we start our this inaugural session, we will play a video from the sponsors of this virtual summit. So requesting my colleague Deepak to play the video.
Information technology plus Indian talent is equal to India tomorrow.
welcome. So today's school tech summit focuses on the role of ICT in the change scenario because of the COVID-19, and how are the schools dealing with it, and how are the government organizations dealing with it. So let me start with our keynote speaker, Dr. MBB Prasad Rao first, and let me ask him that the both in the terms of the COVID-19 situation and also in terms of the national education policies, your views and opinions. Dr. MBB Prasad.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta ji, and a very good morning to all the participants. It's indeed a very great opportunity for me to interact like this. In fact, Gupta ji has been conducting these digitalized programs, digital education, in school education, in higher education for quite a long time. But he has struggled a lot really, but the real actual digital the receiving capacity is now seen after the COVID-19 has thrown the challenge before us. And there is no other substitute. Earlier, when Gupta ji asked me to talk, I used to say that a teacher cannot be replaced, cannot be substituted by this technology. But today, the situation has come that the technology is the only substitute. Without teacher, education is possible. And it's really great that you have started these sessions. And for me, especially personally, it's a great experience for me to participate in such webinars on various platforms. And I'll be very happy to work with, to associate with Dr. Gupta ji, because he has been the real promoter of this digital education for quite a long time. And congratulations, Gupta ji, for conducting such kind of very useful topics for the benefit of the schools, especially the school leaders and all. Now, you see, we have been talking about these webinars because of the compulsion. And COVID-19 has thrown in a great challenge. It's before everyone that there is no other opportunity in education, in the field of education. Well, this digitalization is going on in various fields, in almost all the departments, but it's going very slow in education department, comparatively, relatively. Because many of the schools have not adopted, but now, of course, it is compulsory. I had an experience when I was the director of the Delhi region schools and the foreign schools in 2013. I started first time the marking, online marking, on-screen marking, right, of class 10 and class 12 papers for evaluation. During that time, what happened, I had a very bitter experience in the sense of the most of the teachers, they're reluctant to mark the papers online, because they say that we are not tuned to this, the technology, and we don't want to learn now, because we are almost 50 or 52, especially from this government schools, they were quite reluctant. When I went there, and then I asked them what is the problem. Then they said that, sir, there is no point of learning technology now at this particular stage, and we don't want to learn also. See the reluctance at that particular time. But of late, what has happened, this technology has become inseparable from the lives. And now the actual use of technology is being seen literally by everyone in every department, more especially in the field of education. And now we have to ask a question for ourselves. Had this technology not been there, what would have happened to education today under these circumstances? Because there's no other alternative. There's no other alternative. And digitalization and this online teaching is the only substitute. Earlier, we used to say that the teacher is the only person who can do, because it is justified also even today. Why? Because we are dealing with the human beings, the tender age, the children, at the very, emotional beings and all. But now there is no other alternative. But we have certain things to be addressed very seriously now. One is the internet connectivity, accessibility to internet. Secondly, the major problem is in a rural area, when a small house, 3 children are there, and only one cell phone is there. And if the child is engaged in that telephone for this online for online learning, the other students are deprived of that. So the time limitation and the time adjustment has become a biggest problem nowadays after this. But it is going on very fruitfully, and both receiving end and at the time at the teaching end also, these are going on very well. And now there is no other option. Earlier there was an option, but now there is no other option. And technology is a substitute now. Earlier we used to call technology is not a substitute for the teacher in the classroom for teaching learning process. But now technology is the only substitute for teaching learning process. And now, thanks to the technocrats that they have developed a lot in the field of education, not now, quite a long back they have developed it, but these have come into use today in a full form. And especially actual digitalization of education is possible when the sender and the receiver, both of them are effective. To create that effectiveness for the teacher, even today, the teachers are, some of the teachers are taking it very easily, what I found, because we have been conducting some training programs for the teachers also, in, online training classes and all. So what is happening, seriousness is not found amongst the teachers. This has to be addressed very seriously, because there is no fear. When you go to the classroom, there are so many students in front of you, and they're watching you, and certainly you will, your behavior will be entirely different. But now, when I watch these online training classes, the mother is cooking food for the children, and in between coming and talking something here and going back, and the child is crying for some food, something like that. These kind of things are happening. Which is well, slowly it will come back to its own advantage part of it. And after this challenge is thrown by the COVID, adaptation has become a biggest problem now. Adaptation in the sense, adaptation not by only the teachers but the students as well. The students, because they are imitators, this imitation play a very vital role at that particular age. So automatically they learn easily than teaching by the teacher. So this adaptation has become a biggest problem for us. And secondly, what I observed is online connectivity and affordability. Affordability also has become a biggest problem especially for the rural areas, where the people are not having the mobile phones and the laptops and the connections and all. And
let me just interrupt you. And,
yeah, please.
Bring the other speaker in the picture, and let's have a conversation, like a dialogue.
Okay.
So that the audience is also engaged. And
sure.
Take some Q&A.
Correct.
It will be become interactive. Right?
Yeah.
So
okay.
If you don't mind, let me invite Om Pathak ji.
Okay.
And let me ask him to speak, and then we do an interaction.
Sure.
Like an online panel discussion.
We'll
be raising some questions, and you can give your comments. And
good. We'll go.
So let me welcome Om Pathak ji, who is a founder of the DPSG society, and also he's running a Selaqui school. So Om ji, your views about the COVID-19 impact on the school education, and what are the challenges and opportunities? If you can talk briefly, and I will be asking some questions in an interactive way. Yeah, Om ji.
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, good morning.
Let me first of all extend my heartiest compliments and my greetings to all the participants, and through them to the entire teaching and the school educational community. For in these difficult times, all teachers across the country really put their best minds together and provided to the learner something that otherwise could have been denied to the learner. The last 4 months had been an occasion of great learning, without a doubt. But Raviji, before I come on to the impact of the COVID, it is very important to understand that this webinar is perhaps the first one that I am attending post-declaration of the new policy.
Yes, yes.
And that a lot of people will have a lot of questions, although there's a lot of information floating around the WhatsApp and other social media. But a couple of points I'd like to make quickly. Firstly, I like to welcome the policy because it does address some long-standing problems with the Indian education system. Now, before I comment on that, let me also share with the audience here that I'm not just the founder of Delhi Public School Society. I have been, as a member of the Indian Administrative Service, I've been very closely associated with the policy formulation at the national level and understand the dynamics of policy and its implementation. Of course, there are many good things they've tried to attend, but a couple of good things that have happened is one, the information overload on the child, I hope, will get vastly reduced. And instead, the focus will shift on to competencies and skills rather than information overload. The downplaying of the testing boards and bringing in the central testing authority, the National Testing Authority, into offering a central test for admission to higher education and tertiary education, that's a great welcome step forward. And the most important thing that I think that could happen is the stress on the student. Today, a class 11 and 12 student is shut out to the life and the rest of the world if he really wants to make a meaningful beginning in life. The IIT ka bhoot has become so strong that the poor fellow not only has to attend a regular school, he also or she also has to attend a parallel school. And you can't imagine the stress that these young children in their adolescence have to undergo. That I am sure and I hope will be greatly reduced. I have nothing against the coaching industry, but I have everything for the young students. So these are a couple of things that I think this policy should bring about, apart from the language formula and other things. And another thing that they have done is that on the front of the teacher education, there's again going to be a central test. That would mean that you will have to compete and come up somewhere in the order of merit to be able to get into a B.Ed program. The B.Ed program in the past had become a very perfunctory kind of a qualification which no one cared, and thereby adversely impacting the classroom transaction. So that I hope will bring great relief. But the most essential question that we have to really watch and see is about the implementation and the rolling out of the policy. Now, when you look back at some of the old commissions, the first University Grants Commission, then the Secondary Education Commission, then the Kothari Commission, and then followed by the 1986 policy, revision in 1992, then Subramaniam Committee, and now Kasturi Rangan. I mean, they've all said good things. I mean, they're not short on wisdom. They all knew where to go. But the major problem was how to reach there. Somehow we failed in the implementation. And that will be our biggest challenge yet again. And the country and all of us will have to rise. Another thing that I'm very briefly mentioning some of these things. Another thing that I like to see go away and vanish is this whole debate about private versus government. Very unfortunate. See, if one has studied the evolution of democracies and the political systems worldwide, you will see this control, in the state control, inspired by the fundamental maxim propounded by Marx and Engels, was from each according to his capacity, to each according to his need. Now, that was the foundation of the left philosophy, the communism. Unfortunately, the love for the state control remains closest to the hearts of politicians and the civil servants. They simply love control. And what is very worrisome is that it has been generally accepted across the country that the government schools are not doing as well as the private schools. The private schools have done much better. There are some low-end private schools also, which often come in and pull down the performance of the private schools. But by and large, the urban private schools are absolutely gung-ho. They need curricular reforms, but otherwise they are doing well. Now, those very people who couldn't work the government schools, where lives and careers and opportunities were lost, they are the ones who are now trying to tell the private schools how to run their private schools. Unfortunately, that should not happen. Instead, I've been pleading with the government that even the private schools are the national property. They are not from outside this country. If they have infra, if they have academic assets, if they have intellectual assets, I would, as a state, be foolish not to leverage that. So my case is that let the difference between the private and the public go. Let the state give up the love for control. Instead, they should look at collaboration. They should look at participation. Private schools have much to give. I know not one, but several thousands of private schools across the country and the promoters thereof who really want to give something to the society. So therefore, we should leave them out of the system. So private schools, and today, as you know, there are several reports, Ravi, that say that 73% of the urban enrollments in the secondary space are in the private schools. Now, how can you ignore those? And they have a certain requirement. And another thing that I'm saying it in the public now, one thing that we have to purge, education is no longer philanthropy. It is not philanthropy. We must recognize it is as good or as bad a business with all its trappings as any other private business. Today, setting up a new school in an urban area could cost you as much as 100 crores. Now, the person who's bringing in that money and raising loans and furnishing personal guarantees, why will that person not look for returns on investment? Governments must recognize that. Yes, there are a lot of philanthropies and we respect them, but there's no harm in making profit. And I would, although this policy has declared education to be a public service, and I don't agree with that. Education must be a service, not a public service, because it creates value for the learner. So these are my initial thoughts, but net, I think this policy is a good thing that has happened. And I will keep my fingers crossed and watch closely that it rolls out well. And there's no dilution. And there's no dilution in the implementation of the policy. And finally, a word about teachers. I have a different view of teachers. Firstly, the teacher is irreplaceable no matter how much of technology you bring. Because you need someone who's leveraging technology, and it shall be the teacher. So, teacher will never be substituted by technology. Technology will play a very prominent role in the aid of learning, in enhancing learning, but never replace the teacher. And number two, Raviji, it is my personal experience and I'm sharing that with the audience. The quality of work done by teachers during these 4 months was of exceptional quality. You can't get the teachers to work by driving fear. We need leadership who will inspire them. They're humans like us. And they need motivation. They need inspiration. You show them the way, hold their hand, and they can do wonders. So I have seen teachers across schools, across cities, who have probably put in 10 to 14 hours of work every day, with or without domestic help. They have really ushered in a revolution on the side. And coming back to your question of what COVID-19 did, see, technology was always around it. There were good Samaritans like you, Raviji, and there were some other educational technology companies who were genuinely trying to promote the use of technology because technology would enhance learning. Unfortunately, there was some reluctance on the part of teachers because they thought that technology might bring more work, more documentation, and so on and so forth. But what COVID did was, it left us with no alternative but to turn to technology. So very quickly, the schools, a lot of schools I know across the country, got into a quick action, and they first weighed the options available that they could use, and then they very quickly put together their own teams to learn the usage of technology, the exploration of digital resources that they could carry to the classrooms. And there's several, I won't name any, but there's several. So it was a phenomenal experience, I can tell you. These 3 months have fast-tracked and have brought technology center stage. It has brought technology center stage. Yes, going forward, the challenges will remain one of bandwidth and the other one of devices. So a device for every learner will be important going ahead. And I think as a country, we need to worry about that. Private schools must also do their bit to make sure that devices and bandwidth are provided to the learner. Like we as a DPSG society, we are now in touch with several bandwidth providers, and we're trying to negotiate a viable option for our students and our teachers. So going forward, this will be the challenge, and we must find ways to deal with it. And the biggest asset that is coming our way, the biggest asset that's going to revolutionize this world is 5G. By the end of 2020 or latest by 2021, you will have 5G, you will have bandwidths, which will absolutely enable all kinds of streaming. And secondly, AI is now beginning to come in a big way. And that will again strengthen and support learning. So with these initial comments, I like to say that I am in a state of high hope and very enthused and very happy that this policy will bring about a change. And sometimes, what happens is finally disruptions like the COVID-19 also threw up newer opportunities. So the silver lining has been technology, which had been waiting a long time to get into schools, has now flooded. It has just come in. You can't stop it from happening. And going forward, I'm sure it will help aid and assist that teacher in improving the quality of learning. Thank you.
Excellent presentation, Pathak ji. Thank you for highlighting several aspects from the policy implementation issue to the technology issue, the role of teachers, and several other issues. And let me come back to our speaker, Dr. M.B. Prasada Rao. before we do that, we have the latest issue of our magazine, Digital Learning magazine, which we will launch it virtually because of the COVID situation. Earlier, we used to have a launch on the stage, but right now we will launch it here, and we will make it available online to all our participants who are attending here. So requesting my team to bring the magazine cover here on the screen so that we will have a virtual launch by our inaugural speakers. Deepak, if you can help us. I think, yes, it's here. So this is our latest issue, and we are have the heading called Schools Post COVID-19, the New Normal, where we are highlighting the views of various school leaders and the government officials about the COVID-19 impact on school education and how they are dealing with it. So requesting all our inaugural speaker to virtually launch it, I will request you to just give a clap so that we actually have a virtual launch of this special issue of the magazine. Thank you so much. So this is the cover. So we have just launched it. And requesting Dr. MBB Prasad to kindly give it.
I would like to react to what Dr. Pathak ji has said. One is on the issue of the national education policy. So what the concerns that he has raised will be taken care of by the new education policy, because the 5+4+4+3 and all, this is going to address a major issue of the vocationalization of education. We have been talking about this vocationalization of education for quite a long time, and a separate ministry has also been formed for the skill education and all. But now, at least I'm very, very happy, and thanks to the government that now they have come up. China has captured the whole world market just because of this vocationalization at a very early age in their schools. And right from 6 years onwards, they are going to teach vocational subjects, and therefore the manpower is very skill oriented in China, and that is going to come to us anyhow. And the national education policy is addressing very, very affirmatively and also very positively as far as the development of the schools are concerned. Second issue, what Dr. Pathak was saying was that the private teachers are far better than the government teachers. But I a little bit disagree with that, because I have seen with my own experience.
No, I didn't say that. No, I'm sorry. I did not compare the private teachers with the government teachers. I said government schools, not teachers.
Yeah, government schools.
Just to be precise.
Yes, the schools are managed by the teachers only. Schools are managed by teachers only. So in that context, there are a lot of teachers, those who are very, very, efficient teachers, even in government sector. But the only thing is that the privatization is the system that works in the government sector is something different from the private sector, because in private they have a lot of opportunities and a lot of freedom to work, and more especially the commercialization and all. But in government sector, if you hold the government schools, the private schools can hold the government schools' hands, then automatically these schools also can come up. The schools are not that inferior. The schools are developing fast. There are so many other schools also in government sector which are doing extremely well. For example, you take the Navodaya Vidyalayas, you talk about the Kendriya Vidyalayas. Whenever in CBSE we open the result, the first goes either to the Navodaya Vidyalayas or to the Kendriya Vidyalayas. So this is what I would like to share with you. The third thing is the teachers. Yes, I agree with you that the teacher problem is there throughout the country, and this is of course because of the standardization that we maintain at the B.Ed colleges and all. There is a pedagogy, a subject taught in B.Ed. There's a child psychology. There is a teaching methodology. But I'm very sorry to say that when I interact with the teachers, none of them know what is pedagogy, and how many types of these teaching methodologies are there to be applicable in their own classroom. And this is the situation that is prevailing. That's why earlier the B.Ed was 1 year, and now it has been made 2 years. But still, the B.Ed colleges have grown mushroom growth, and the input is very, very less, as I believe. And as long as we strengthen the BEd colleges, equip them with all kinds of quality-oriented contents, then only it is possible for us to handle this problem. So these are the three issues which I would like to raise a concern about it. Guptaji. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Excellent points about the government schools you have mentioned. Your point is valid that there are good teachers in the government schools also. And let so there are, of course, center of excellence and islands of excellence uh, in the government sector. I think the question is that how do we scale up the whole government education system also in terms of quality, so that it is able to contribute more to the society, and also how can government handhold the private sector and look at public sector and private sector collaboration. How can private schools and government schools collaborate with each other and work upon their strengths? So with this, let me also you can see the Q&A uh, questions, and like there are some comments on chat that someone is talking about how to do think for profit schooling is possible in India. So I'm not able to get that question, but I think the question is that are schools allowed to make profits, or similar type of question? You can interpret that. Pathak ji, you can answer.
It's a good question. See, it's a very simple thing. Firstly, we don't have to be defensive about the government schools. Let's accept what there is. By being defensive, we are only pushing the problem under the carpet. It's always good as a nation, we face the problem squarely, recognize and find ways to address it. So therefore, I will not get into the debate of how good or bad. I have very closely interacted with the Kendriya Vidyalayas and Navodayas. As I told you, coming from the background that I do as a former civil servant, these schools are not very far away. And quite incidentally, it is for the information of the whole house here, DPSG society has been training the principals of Kendriya Vidyalayas and the Navodaya Vidyalayas free of cost. We have run training programs, residential programs for them for a duration of 19 to 20 days for the principals of central schools, Kendriya Vidyalayas and the Navodaya Vidyalayas. So we understand what lies ahead and what are the issues. Now, coming back to this question of privatization. You see, worldwide, while private sector, while education could be a philanthropy, there's also no holds on the private sector making money on that. See, it's a marketplace. Let's understand that. And we have to speak frankly about it at the national level. It's a marketplace. Today, when a parent goes out to find a school, the parent goes to 20 schools, finds out the price levels, the fee levels, and also the reputation of the school, and then makes a final choice of going to a school. Now think of an underperforming private school. What will happen? There will be a mass exodus out of it into other schools. So if you don't provide quality and charge high fees, the market will punish you. If you provide high quality at a reasonable fees, then you will be flooded with the admission requests. And thereby your intake of the quality of students will go up. And if your quality of pedagogy is good, there will be a further improvement. So you get into either a reverse spiral or a real forward spiral. So market punishes you and market rewards you. And there are very few countries. State education, I must also tell you that some of the panelists here may not have any idea about where is the world going. In the US, when the public education started to fail, they brought in the concept of charter schools. What were the charter schools? Charter schools were nothing but given to some private groups, societies, or collection of bodies, association of people, and they were told that you have greater autonomy, but you will get lower grants from the government, but you will have greater autonomy. So you run the school. So the charter schools came in. When the charter schools initially showed very good results, but later they found that more needed to be done. So the US brought in magnet schools. Now the magnet schools were another step ahead of the charter schools. They provided even still greater autonomy and still lesser funding. So what I'm saying is, today, if in India, public education was so good, why will 73% of the kids go to private schools in the urban areas? No, this is the question that we need to address, not shy away from it and find answers to it. And my answer is that one, private schools should be allowed freedom to grow, but they must be watched. They must not indulge in profiteering, but they must be allowed. And even the TMA Foundation case, the Supreme Court has also ruled that they should have. Why should I open my balance sheet to anyone? I would not. No matter which government tells me, why should I? My balance sheet will be open to, not to the CBSE, not to any state government, no. So the point is, we must honor and respect the privacy of individuals who are running the schools. And two, instead of pushing them to the wall and pushing them to do as badly as the government schools have done, or most of them are done, we should instead hold hands with these schools and leverage their intellectual and academic assets and resources. That is the way forward. And I can tell you, Ravi ji, there are thousands of schools that I personally know, be it in Imphal or be it in Bangalore, who really want to reach out to the community, who really want to do some good work beyond their own schools, and who are not even bothered about spending money on these philanthropic things. So instead of pushing the private schools, I'm saying take them along and purge this left-inspired penchant for control. It will not take the country anywhere. That's my thought. So, ladies and gentlemen, my answer to the question is, if not now, tomorrow, day after, the private schools will become for profit. And I can tell you, I've been interacting with the state governments. Most state governments do not have the money to set up any new high schools or secondary schools. They don't have the money. They don't even have the money to pay the private schools for the admissions that they have taken under the RT for some reason or the other. Unfortunately, the levels of corruption, and the private schools have to run from pillar to post to get their money, even that paltry amount. So therefore, I think we have to work towards a system that is equitable and that is fair and that is transparent, and a system that will not distinguish between the private or the public school, which will provide equal amount of support to both, which will hold them both equally accountable and responsible. Remember, education is one single empowerment tool that can change the face of this country. And if you don't work it to the best advantage of our teeming millions, you would have missed that opportunity of becoming the global power that we seek to become, or the global guru that we seek to become. So my heart goes out, Raviji, and to the participants in this webinar. My heart goes out to those people who are missing out on life and opportunity. Urban kids get something good, something bad, something indifferent. But what about those in the remote areas? They get nothing. And it is they who we need to build this nation as a great nation. And education will be one single empowerment tool. So private sector will have a role to play. It will not be reversed.
Sure. Asking Dr. MBB Prasad about you are a director in the CBSE, and CBSE has recently introduced artificial intelligence in the schools, and talking about computers, and new education policy has also talked about coding from 6th. So if you want to just talk about these new things which CBSE are doing, Prasadji.
Yeah, in fact, see, one thing I would like to react before I attend to your question. One thing is, I do not know whether DPS is imparting training to NVS and KVS, what Mr. Pathak was saying. I was in Navodaya as a deputy commissioner, and we have our own, the JATS, the journal training.
Mr. Prasad, please, before you say that, please find out from Kendra Vidyalaya. Please find out from Navodaya before you say anything. If you don't know, that's your problem. But don't question the fact that I mentioned that we have trained the principals of these two.
You might have trained some teachers. That's a different issue. But the training institutes are existing in Navodaya and Kendriya Vidyalaya, as we know. And CBSE is also training simultaneously all the teachers. Even today, we are training the teachers. Online teacher training programs are going on. This is what I want to give some clarification. Secondly, in private sector, the major problem that we are encountering is payments of salaries to the teachers. We are talking about the private schools, their commercialization and all. But many of the schools, I'm not talking about DPS and all, but many of the schools, the actual problem lies that because of the non-payment or the less payment of the salaries to the teachers are not attracted towards the schools. This is one of the major issues that I encountered with that. These are the two issues that I would like to share with you, Mr. Gupta ji. And as we have asked at the CBSE, we have taken a lot of challenges digitally. And also, when you talk about this online education, I would like to draw your kind attention towards the mechanisms developed to provide textbooks to all children at home, number one. And secondly, online classes have already been started and e-learning is taking place to keep the learning process intact. And upskilling of the teachers and for leveraging e-learning resources is already there. I'm talking about the digitalization and online issues only. And use of mobiles to increase preparation, penetration of enable, and anytime, anywhere access it is. And realigning, for example, you take Atal Tinkering Labs are created. And there are some Atal Innovation Mission is there. Atal Innovation Missions, you have almost in the digital learning, like Diksha we have developed, and we have developed e-Pathashala. In Diksha, you have around 80,000 online books that are available from class 1 to 12. And the mobile application in e-Pathashala, we have 1,880 audios and more than 2,000 videos and 680 books like that. So these are the developments that CBSE has already done. Not now. CBSE has already started this long before, and this has been going on. Several platforms are developed under the Ministry of HRD, and they are catering to the needs of the students and even the private schools at large. Yeah.
So excellent to see that CBSE has taken these initiatives, and CBSE is looking at training of the teachers and upgrading the curriculum also. So if you allow, may I request Pathak ji to come on the screen, please. You can see the screen is off. So we are almost at the end of the session. So I will request Pathak ji that you mentioned in your speech that this crisis has thrown up some opportunities. So if you can briefly talk about some of the opportunities you see because of the COVID-19 situation.
See, one of them is that deployment of technology. While a few schools may have been able to do it very competently, a lot of schools will need hand-holding in deployment of technology. There are some very large corporations worldwide who have tried to provide frameworks and platforms for online learning. But again, to deploy that technology, which is fairly complex, I would say, we will need support. And I see this as a great opportunity for some of leading brands like you to come up and handhold with a lot of schools in helping them deploy technology. That's one. Second would be about the digital resources. Now, today there are n number of digital resources available, either paid, priced, or freeware. But again, to use the correct resource at the correct time, in the correct place, in the correct manner, is again an area that some of our teachers need an exposure to, some handholding. So that's an area where we can help. Because, in a word, see, I tell you, one thing that we must all understand very clearly, if we have not understood so far, the future of learning is about blended learning only. While the teacher will remain, so will technology. But how do you blend the two together in such a fine mix that the teacher feels supported? And technology is a two-way thing. If you don't use it well, it can cut you also. So the efficient use and deployment of technology is the future of learning. And good thing that technology also brings a lot of transparency. Wherever you have deployed technology, it has brought a lot of transparency, a lot of accountability, because for what you do gets recorded. It's for everyone to see. Today, we are the world leaders in creating technology solutions and software platforms and so on. So, transparency will be the future. Accountability will come along. You see, in the case of fee collection today, I would say a large number of private schools are collecting their fees online. So the cash has disappeared totally and absolutely. Initially, there was some hesitation, but then people are doing it now. There was some initially hesitation. There was some hesitation around using or bringing technology to the classroom. I remember the times when Intel first brought in this program called Teach to the Future. And then suddenly over time, we have evolved. And today our teachers are very competent in using technology in the classrooms, but they still need a lot of them. So these are the opportunities that I think will be created. So the times of selling hardware is gone. Today anybody can buy hardware, but it is the usage of technology, it is the deployment of technology where companies like you can be of great help. Sure. And as I said that even when we come back to a normal school, even assuming that we find the vaccine and things will be back to normal, and I'm sure things will be back to normal, but the new normal might be a little different than the old normal. You remember, even the great Spanish flu came and went. That killed far many more people in 1819 and 1820, right? It's been exactly a century later that you have this pandemic. This will also go. Schools will come back to normal, but they will bring together with it the ever-present blended learning. Even in a normal classroom, there will be a technology component, which the student can always refer to. Flipped classrooms have been here. Today, you can give assignments online, you can get assignments submitted online, you can mark them online. And the new policy, of course, de-emphasizes that formal testing. So testing in the truest sense, assessment will be for learning, not just of learning. With these kind of paradigm shifts coming in, I think technology and technology companies will have to contribute, will have to pitch in a very major way. Because the number of schools who can do it on their own could be a handful. could be a handful, but most others will need that support. Thank you.
Excellent point, Pathak. You have mentioned about that there is a huge need for teacher training and teacher accreditation, and Dr. M.B. Prasad also highlighted the various initiatives which CBSE is taking, the government of India is taking, MHRD is taking in this regard. And I'm also happy to announce that as you have mentioned, Pathak, that we at Elets have been in fact brainstorming with a lot of community, school community, and we have been receiving requests from school and teachers that we can we launch something online workshops for teachers to interact and learn on various aspects of the school education. So thanks for highlighting that, and we are anyway working on it, and we are going to launch it very soon as the next month. We have been working on it for last 3 months on this. So thanks for highlighting this, and we will request your support in this, Pathak. We will need your guidance, in fact, if you can like,
always there for you, sir.
Help us. And Dr. Prasad, requesting you to give your concluding remarks on the opportunities being thrown by the Corona situation.
Guptaji, I would also like you to kindly look into these issues, what I am raising now.
Sure.
You also try to see that the parents assume the role of a teacher now. Try to have a program, a separate program for the parents, how to teach the basic things at home to the children, right? If you can look into those aspects where the technology can play a very prominent role. The second thing is the development of the new professional skills. As on now, the teachers are having some professional skills as they go to the classroom, the teaching methodologies and all. And now there is a shift. And this shift has to be addressed very seriously now, because we don't know how long this will continue. And in future also, this is going to the online, and the digitalization is going to play a very vital role, very significant role, especially in the field of education. So therefore, the development of the special professional skills for the teachers, and also the special listening skills to the students also.
Yes.
As far as the digitalization is concerned, if you can just look into that aspect and develop some modules for that, that will be beneficial for the students and the teachers. And then the strategic innovation and experimentation. How to strategize, especially by the teachers, because we cannot give everything from the textbook, from the curriculum. They have to go beyond the curriculum and also start some additional innovative things that are to be added to the curriculum. And these are possible only through the online system, because in a classroom, you have only 40 minutes or 50 minutes of classroom interaction, where the teachers are concentrated morely in the curriculum, whatever that is given in the textbook. But now freedom is there. So the curriculum can be integrated into the value system, right? And especially how to go beyond this curriculum. So far, the teachers are teaching only the curriculum, but the curriculum can be related to the real life situations. And some modules can be prepared. You people can do, Guptaji, you can easily do such some kind of modules, which are very much relevant to the present day situation, especially for the schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So with this, we will conclude the session, and let me thank our speakers, Dr. M.B. Prasad Rao, Director of CT, Chair BST and Miscellaneous Exam, Central Board of Secondary Education, CBSE, Government of India. Thanks for joining us. And
thank you.
Excellent comments and inputs from you. Thanks, we are honored to have you here. And Pathak, founder of the DPSG Society and founder of the Selaqui schools, for joining us in this inaugural session. I think this was an excellent session where we had a lot of deliberations on the present and the future of education. So with this, we'll close the session, and thank you and namaskar.
Namaskar.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guptaji. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So,
Namaskar.
Namaskar, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद, and thank you so much, both of you, for being.
Thank you.